Friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going in Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you can be listening to right here at youtube.com/Steve and Larson. Available wherever podcasts can be found. And, of course, taped live at the twitch.tv/Steve and Larson. It is the morning after WrestleMania. I know a lot of people out there are probably exhausted from the week, but there's Larson, you are confirmed.
Yeah, man,
exhausted.
I did not want to get out of bed this morning. I did not want to get up.
Oh, my gosh. I felt okay getting out of bed this morning, had some coffee, feeling pretty good. You know, maybe my tune will change once I've got 3 hours of Raw tonight, but I'm actually kind of looking forward to see what directions are taken.
Yeah, it could be great. Could be, there's nothing announced so far, so.
I mean, at the very least, this week, we've got a bit of a new status quo with a new women's champion. We've got new Raw tag champions. Bob Lashley still champion, which is pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. So
cool.
we've got some stuff that might be of interest, but it's Raw. It's Raw. You never know.
Still Raw.
They're probably just getting around to writing it right now.
Oh, without a doubt.
Right.
Everybody's pulling up to the new home of the Thunderdome, putting pen to paper, without a doubt.
Absolutely. So anyways, did I actually just draw on my face?
I don't think so.
I don't think I did, Alex. You got me.
I didn't see anything.
I went like this.
Alex one time I stretched like this, and I penciled my hand, and I accidentally wrote on this curtain over here. Still there. You can see it right here.
Is my refrigerator open right now? Oh, man. Anyways, you know what? Lot going on this past week. But nothing bigger than the forbidden door being open between AEW and WWE.
You're gonna be so concerned. You're gonna be so concerned about having a red ink on your face this whole show.
It's just the accoutrements are red. The actual ink is blue.
Oh, all right.
Let's see. Well, so we had a Broken Skull sessions.
Yeah,
with Chris Jericho. So of course everybody's like,
AEW superstar Chris Jericho.
Oh, is he going to talk about AEW? Yeah, he talked about AEW quite a bit, actually. Talked a lot about AEW.
I'm happy they kind of got it out of the way immediately rather than, hey, there's this elephant in the room over the course of the whole conversation. If they just started the whole thing with Stone Cold, Chris, tell me how you got started, and didn't preface that with 10 to 15 minutes of AEW and New Japan talk, and have been like, all right, they're obviously avoiding it. You know, that would have been the concern, and then you're just waiting there the whole time. Not to say what Jericho said wasn't interesting. I thought it was. As someone who I might have read his first book, I don't recall, but hasn't read all his books. And maybe, he like the story about him winning the Undisputed Championship from Stone Cold and The Rock. I've heard that story at least like 5 times. So that's nothing new. So I'm guessing if you're familiar with Jericho's bibliography, his written work, this might all be, in terms of his WB run, ground that's been explored by him. Someone who hasn't read all of his work.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot that was new because like you said, he's been a pretty open book. He's literally written
5.
Is this going to be the 5th one? Is this going to be the 5th one? He has a lot.
Number out there.
Yeah. He has a lot. Covers his basically his whole career. But yeah, as somebody who hasn't read all of his books, as somebody who hasn't listened to every episode of his podcast, there was some stuff in there that was just interesting. To hear him talk about. None of it was particularly shocking. I thought probably the most interesting thing for me was when he talked about his rivalry with Kevin Owens, Festival of Friendship, heading into WrestleMania 33, and how he sort of viewed that as like, okay, they had the hottest angle at the time. Everybody loved it. But of course, Vince didn't consider it the A story because that was Brock Lesnar and then Goldberg. And Kevin Owens had that Universal Championship. It seemed natural to have that go, him versus Jericho. Instead, they changed plans, and at that point, Jericho was like, "Yeah, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I'm going to be stuck doing this list stuff forever."
Well, he also said it wasn't so much that they got bumped out of the main event. It's because it was the top story, and then got bumped to the second match of the card.
Second match of the card.
And it's like if we're not on last, put us on first.
Mm-hmm.
He felt that was the best story going into Mania, and to not put that at least in a prominent position on the Mania card, it seemed like he felt was a slap in the face.
Yeah, I remember you and I both talking pretty extensively about that at the time, and I remember we both felt like it really should have been them, but you could see the writing on the wall back then. It was like, well, it's Brock, and then obviously Goldberg. It's like that's just what they're gonna do. They feel like you got to add all sorts of stakes that really don't need to be involved, like the title for that. So So yeah, that was kind of interesting. I mean, it's funny, dude. You go back and you look at AEW, and of course he says in here, like they always say, well, we don't consider them WWE. He doesn't consider it a rivalry competition. Yeah. When I mean, clearly, if you want to succeed to the most of your, I think Jericho genuinely thinks that having more wrestling companies. I don't think anybody wants to put WWE out of business. But, they obviously want to succeed and be number one. Why wouldn't you want to be number one? That should be everybody's goal, to be number one. But it was interesting to hear him talk about, how AEW came to be, how it was like the perfect storm of, as he said, Tony Khan, passion, finances, TV deals that they were sniffing around. He was like, you really need to be on network TV. He calls it like cable TV. And then, him, household name, other contracts coming up like Mox. And then these guys here in New Japan, Cody, who people knew. But it's interesting to go back and hear his perspective in terms of, okay, when he got sort of disenchanted with WWE. And then you also know that, for example, like Cody, when he was disenchanted with WWE and what happened with that. And even when it comes to the Young Bucks, when you look at some of the things that WWE does creatively, and it gives some wrestlers pause, well, we'd rather, if the offer is open to do our own company, we'd rather do that, which is a much bigger risk than to go along with the WWE when, creatively speaking, it's just not up their alley. And it is kind of interesting to see if WWE had approached things in a different way creatively with their wrestlers, maybe AEW never would have happened.
That's entirely possible. I mean, one thing that Jericho mentions when going over to New Japan to wrestle Omega, Wrestle Kingdom a few years back, where, they're going over ideas, and then Jericho asks him, who do we have to clear this all with? And apparently Kenny's like, clear? We don't have to clear anything. We just go out there and do it. And that seemed to kind of light a spark under Jericho. I believe he said something to the extent of, I knew then that my instincts were right. Yeah. And I assume he means from the creative aspect, because he talks about the Festival of Friendship, that he had it all worked out with Vince. And then at the day of that Raw, Vince wasn't there, and whoever was in charge of that day were trying to change everything.
And Triple H.
And could be. And he was like, no, this has already been worked out. I think
he's alluded to it a bit more directly, that it was Triple H. Yeah. Well, that's what I read on internet when I was sort of, getting some recap notes about this. He's alluded to it being Triple H in the past, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. So he was like, no, this has been worked out. It's been discussed. It's been decided. We're doing it this way. And the way he puts it, he had to text Vince, get the response, and show it to whoever's running the show that day, and got the green light to do it as planned. And then afterwards, everybody came up to him and said, nope, that was the way to do it. And throughout the one through line throughout the whole episode is Jericho's penchant for reinvention and the creative process that led to each new iteration of the character. Like, I had no idea that he studied at the Groundlings. He took acting lessons from the dude who played Marvin Nash in Reservoir Dogs. I didn't know that. What he gathered from that, and what, and that kind of immediately leading to that program he had with Shawn Michaels, where he's wearing the suits and doing the talking real slow and stuff like that. Like such a dramatic alteration of the Chris Jericho character from doing the Y2J thing for 6, 7, 8 years, various versions of it, but more or less the same character.
Yeah.
And to come out and completely reinvent himself, the first of many times he's done it. And now it just seems like, all right, one thing that seems he relates it to working the territories, where you work a territory for a year or two, you do your run there, and you go to another territory, because you'll go there and you'll be new, you'll be fresh, and you can just kind of, keep yourself hot by going from territory to territory, never overstaying your welcome in one spot.
Yeah.
And it seems like not only in terms of where he's wrestling, but the character he's portraying, that's kind of his attitude. He kind of has a sense of, all right, this has run its course, time to move on. He's pretty darn good at that, especially these days.
I'm checking to see if this is on Peacock at this point, but his documentary with WE is honestly one of the best ones, because his, say what you will about him, and his views and thoughts outside of wrestling. In the world of wrestling, he is an incredibly smart person. And the documentary, he talks about, he lists each territory that he went into and what he got out of that territory. Like one specifically was, this is where I learned to cut a promo. This is what I learned, this is where I learned ring psychology, more than any other place. And he talked about his early career going from each territory, and he talks about what he learned from each one. It really is, Peacock's search. Yeah. You type in Chris Jericho to search there and it says no results were found. I have no idea if it's available anywhere beyond maybe it'll be on the international network still. Are we doing, do we have we do. Yeah. expressvpn.com/GIR. If you're in the United States and you're kind of interested in the international network.
Want to see if that Jericho documentary is up there.
Right. It's a good deal.
No, there's a lot of great stuff. As you mentioned, as a wrestling mind, he's pretty high up on the list in terms of guys who understand the art of storytelling within, the confines of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Working with the tropes of professional wrestling, going against the tropes for desired effect, drawing in references from film, most famously probably Anton Chigurh, No Country for Old Men, when he's wearing the suits and talking real slow. He talked several times about gathering inspiration from various musicians. Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley,
Michael Jackson,
several others. And in terms of taking bits and pieces of what he's seen throughout his life and incorporating it into his character. And they ran a bit of that skit backstage in WCW, whereas the Spinal Tap bit where they're lost backstage. He just does that. It's still funny. It's a funny bit.
Yeah, it is. It totally is. He talked about being the guy that people comes to for advice now in IW. Like he's the Vince guy now, where people are waiting for hours on end to get advice from him. Talked about wrestling without fans there. Orange Cassidy asked him about a selling a particular move, and he's like, I don't know, I can't really tell with the fans not there. Yeah, you like how they rely on the crowd reaction for so much. That was obviously we all experienced it, the sort of surreal having fans back and understanding it's been a year. Where do we stand with the fans? Where does the WWE stand with the fans? Where do these characters stand with the fans? Who's going to get the pops? Who's going to get the boos? Is Roman going to get cheered because he's Roman still? No, they were booing the crap out of him. Edge with probably the biggest entrance pop of the night. So yeah, it was, and then, watching the emotion of, the night one main event, when the crowd was actually pretty split, but just the emotion that was all over Bianca's face, which was such a great moment.
It really was. It really was.
But no, it's just interesting to hear him talk about that stuff as well.
Yeah, it's a 2-hour interview and it flies by.
Yeah,
because Jericho has a great memory for dates, places, people who were there. And that's probably helped by the fact that he's written down notes on every match he's ever had. Including like how much what his payout was. He had his own star system. He said, I don't know if he still does that, but at least at one point he had a star system for his own matches. Yeah. And the level of detail that he offers up for a lot of these stories is pretty damn impressive for things that happened 20 years ago, if not more. Yeah. It's really entertaining. Listen, one of the reasons Jericho has been so wildly successful because he's a really charismatic guy. He's
very charismatic. He's an excellent storyteller, just an excellent storyteller. And like you said, writing everything down and I imagine, writing all these books, which chronicles all this stuff, having as many interviews as he has had, it probably helps the memory quite a bit, recalling this stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely worth it to check it out.
Definitely is.
All right, before we continue, here's a word from the sponsor of today's show, ExpressVPN. So we all know the WWE Network has moved to Peacock, but the entire library of their content won't be available to us marks in the United States until like SummerSlam, and who knows if the entire thing will be available even then. What am I supposed to do, Larson? Just buy old DVDs off eBay or something?
I don't know. I guess you could look, but get this, Steve. Do you know that Netflix hides thousands of shows from you based on your location? And now, at the end of the month, they're going to jack up prices again.
Well, Larson, what if I told you that there is a way to watch not only all those hidden Netflix shows, but also all those early episodes of Raw or like ECW Hardcore TV that are now only available on the international version of the WWE Network?
Steve, how do I do that? Tell me now, how do I do that?
All right, you just got to check out ExpressVPN. You see, with ExpressVPN, you can choose which country Netflix, WWE Network, or countless other streaming services think you're from, with over 90 countries to choose from. So every time you run out of stuff to watch, just fire up the ExpressVPN app on your phone, laptop, or smart TV, switch your country, and unlock new shows.
Heck yeah, too sweet, me brother.
Too sweet, so be smart. Stop paying full price for streaming services and only getting access to a fraction of their content. Get your money's worth at expressvpn.com/GIR. Don't forget to use our link so you can get 3 extra months free.
That's expressvpn.com/GIR, expressvpn.com/GIR to learn more.
All right, let's get into this. Some sort of post-WrestleMania stuff in the news. Bob Lashley, during a recent appearance on Ryan Satin's Out of Character podcast, the WWE champion spoke about the breakup of the Hurt Business. I know something that we're all hurting over, Larson, being big fans of the faction. Right, and what the future may hold for the faction. These transcripts come to you via our friends over at Fightful. He said this: "It hurt my heart, to tell you the truth. It was something very special. In the wrestling business, it's very seldom that really special things come together, and you see so many people get behind it. Ultimately, business is business. Originally, the Hurt Business was started by MVP and myself. We brought people on that deserved a chance. They took it and ran with it, but the Hurt Business is not over. We're just making some adjustments. In the next few weeks, we'll see how those adjustments pan out." Fightful, of course, had previously reported that Vince pushed for the split, despite protests from Lashley and MVP. Do you think there's any chance whatsoever that we'll get Shelton and Cedric back in the fold? Or do you think they're going to go recruiting elsewhere?
I mean, the story, if the story at all is going to make sense, it would have to be the latter. It would have to be Lashley MVP recruiting new members. Because if in a matter of 4 weeks, we go from a pretty definitive split where Cedric and Shelton are kicked out of Hurt Business, only for them to be welcomed back in, it's going to seem really strange. It's going to be tough to put the pieces together logically for that to feel satisfying, other than we like this faction, we want to see them back together. Now, if they want to rely on our people's sentiments to that regard, in terms of kind of smoothing over whatever illogical story beats they conjure up to motivate it, it wouldn't be the first time this happened. But
from a fan's perspective, would you be opposed to them using the thinnest of logic as long as you got what you wanted, the Hurt Business back together? Well, or are you like, no, I don't want to see them back together unless they give me a really good story reason? Because I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Just put them back together. You know what? Because it's for one thing, it's wrestling. Like, that shit happens all the time.
It does. It totally does. That doesn't really excuse it, but yes, it does happen all the time.
Either or situation, Larson. An either or situation.
No, because what is if they just kind of say, all right, you're back together now, and it's like the thinnest motivation, and despite the fact that I'd be happy to see it because I thought the Hurt Business was phenomenal together as it was constituted. It's going to just put a spotlight on why they broke up in the first place anyways. That didn't make a whole lot of sense, you know? Like, did Lashley going out there at WrestleMania without Cedric and Shelton enhance the story leading to Mania or at Mania whatsoever? It didn't in my mind. If anything, I think if like Cedric and Shelton, they didn't need to interfere, I don't think, in the Mania match. I think what MVP did was enough. But you could have had Cedric and Shelton out there, just there. And then when Bobby wins, having the four of them in the ring celebrate together.
I know.
That's an awesome moment. It's an awesome moment.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was the weirdest thing that just like at the last minute, they needed him to be, you know, extra heelish. I mean, good on Vince for, you know, because I thought, you know, obviously we've been pretty open about us being both pretty bad at predictions. Me, you, and the Enforcer were all pretty bad. But yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I for me, it's like you can give me a little bit of, you know, hey, it was the heat of the moment. It was WrestleMania season. All is forgiven. If they did something to get back in his good graces, if maybe tonight there is a number one contender match and Drew was in that match, it's like Drew and Riddle. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah,
they did a mini tournament or something like that.
Yeah, they had like two matches kick off the show, and the winners of those match face at the end of the show, something like that.
And Shelton and Cedric, just of their own volition, came in and interfered and made sure Drew didn't win it, and that's how they got back in his good graces.
Yeah, but still, then it's like just on Friday on SmackDown, Cedric was in the Andre Battle Royal with huge pieces of tape over the Hurt Business logo during that match.
But he was still wearing the Hurt Business outfit. He had just a piece of tape on it, which is temporary.
Well, two.
Well, an X, yeah. And look at what happened. He's like, oh crap. A, we're in the Andre. B, we got eliminated pretty quickly. We need to get back in. We need to get back in.
Yeah, but they got eliminated by the rest of the field. It wasn't like they got eliminated like a couple of chumps.
No,
they got eliminated by 20 other people.
But do you see my point? It's like they're not bulletproof anymore. If you're part of that big faction, maybe people won't mess with you. You know,
I understand that, but still, it's like 2 weeks removed. Just like if there's a larger sample size,
do it.
I don't know, man. It's gonna really strain credibility from a creative standpoint if they're like, all right, you're back together now.
I want to know what the friendos have to think about that.
Let us know in the comments. Please.
In the comments below.
Let's move on to Sheamus. Despite being a regular best bout machine on Raw of late, Sheamus hasn't exactly been winning many of those matches, so it came, at least to us, a bit of a surprise that he bested Riddle at WrestleMania for that U.S. title. Now, according to the Wrestling Observer himself, Dave Meltzer, the reason that Sheamus won last night is because these transcripts are from Wrestle Talk. Quote, Riddle was never supposed to be champion. They had to do it because Keith Lee was supposed to win for whatever reason. For whatever the reason was pulled. They had to get the belt off Lashley because they were giving him the WWE title. It was one of those situations. They couldn't give it to Morrison because Morrison was in the Bad Bunny angle. Riddle got the belt because there's no other choices. So this rectifies it. So you would assume now that Sheamus has it, whenever Keith Lee is cleared to return, that's going to be the story going forward for the two of them.
You would think that would be the case. I hope that Riddle made a really good case for himself. I mean, he made a legit United States champion, you know. I hope that Vince, and he shouldn't, but I hope that Vince doesn't see Riddle like he did Otis a year ago. You know, like, oh, I just see him as comedic value because obviously what he can do in the ring is outstanding.
Yeah, I know.
Is absolutely outstanding. So, you know, I hope that Riddle made a good case for himself here. I think, you know, in my eyes he did. And I'd like to see, you know, bigger things for Riddle because I think he's proven himself out. As far as Sheamus having it, you know, man, if anybody was to take it off Riddle, I'm happy it's Sheamus because that dude has been proving himself.
He has been wrestling like crazy all year. It's
Absolutely,
been over the last year. It's been insane. He's putting on incredible match after incredible match, and for all the hard work he's put in, definitely deserved. Deserved.
Yeah. Yeah. Curious to see if we get Keith Lee tonight. I mean, it's hard to understand, you know, just from the sort of cryptic messages he's had on I think he had something on his Twitter like, "Hey, I miss you guys." Little things like that where it's like you're looking between every.
There was a clip of I think the New Day entering the stadium before day one, and right behind them, walking to the venue, was Keith Lee and Mia Yim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
no, and I think
he was in the building.
I think they posted a picture of them next to the Wrestlemania thing. So yeah, everybody was there. So I don't know. Maybe it was the kind. I don't know. It's if it was something personal, you don't really want to speculate on that. But hopefully whatever the issue would have been, because sometimes, like in the case of Charlotte, like if whatever Andrade was talking about with like her being told that she might have been pregnant, like that small amount of time it took to figure that out eliminated her from WrestleMania, seemingly, if that's to be believed. So yeah, hopefully whatever it is with Keith Lee, it's been sorted out, because I miss Keith Lee. I want to see him on TV again.
Same. Yeah. While we're on the topic of Raw, it doesn't look like we'll have a Raw preview in time before we end the show, but over the weekend, Wrestling Inc. reported that Raw was set to undergo some pretty huge changes behind the commentary booth. Out Tom Phillips, and in former ESPN host Adnan Virk, and then Matt Man Podcast's Andrew Zarian subsequently confirmed that Virk was joining the commentary team. He was going to be joined by Byron Saxton and Corey Graves. Today, WB officially announced Virk's arrival and confirmed that he'd be joined by Graves and Saxton. WB noted in their announcement that Tom Phillips will be taking over announcing duties on 205 Live, and that Samoa Joe, quote, remains part of the WWE talent roster.
Okay, so hopefully that means Samoa Joe is going to be wrestling again. Number one.
That would be great.
So nothing here on SmackDown, huh?
No. We don't know if Corey is doing both shows, moving over to Raw, someone's replacing him on SmackDown. Nope.
I really like Graves and Cole on SmackDown just as a two-man team. Sometimes they make each other laugh.
Corey Graves and Saxton have always had good chemistry, too.
They've always had really good chemistry. Yeah, so it's good to see them back together. Yeah, it's going to be weird because, like, you're probably more familiar with Adnan Virk than I am, but I went and I looked, I was like, okay, so this guy's like a professional. He's like from ESPN and stuff, not just some chump.
Yeah, he used to do a lot of stuff with ESPN. That's where I remember him from.
So I looked up at some stuff, and it's going to be like, like a real sports guy again. And it's always trippy to hear that stuff. Like it was trippy when Morrow was doing SmackDown. It was like, oh man, it's like a real fight guy,
Yeah.
So that's cool. I wonder if he's gonna. I wonder if there's like what the. I wonder if there's any sort of, look, it's not like this guy would need an audition necessarily. I wonder if there's any sort of like, hey, let's test you out and see what you're like with wrestling, or Vince in your ear the whole time.
That's the thing. I think there's two things. Is calling, because I don't know if Virk did play-by-play at all. I know of him through his appearances on like SportsCenter and on ESPN Radio.
Yeah.
So doing sports analysis is different than doing play-by-play.
Sure. Yeah.
Then also it's the factor, yes, of someone in your ear telling you what to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hope, for the sake of whoever's taken the play-by-play role, they get plenty of reps in before assuming the job of having someone in your ear relating information to you, like literally sentences you're supposed to be saying, because that could be incredibly distracting when you're just out there trying to call the action in the ring.
Yeah.
I would think that'd be a pretty massive learning curve potentially.
Yeah. I wonder if he'll know the difference between a Blue Thunder Bomb and a
Michinoku driver.
Michinoku driver.
Yeah. Well, it's Michael Cole has been doing this for like 30 years.
Michael Cole, man, people give him so much shit. I like Michael Cole. As long as they don't turn him heel and put him in storylines, I'm happy with Michael Cole. I like him. I like him and Bailey's chemistry. I think they're funny. 205 Live. I don't know what Tom Phillips did.
Twice he was on SmackDown, and then they sent him over to NXT.
They
UK
shipped him off to the UK. Yeah, I always like him and
where he was good.
Where he was great. Yeah, I like Tom Phillips. I think he's fantastic. I don't know what that deal is. They keep on just moving him around everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't know, man. Vince is weird, dude.
Before we continue, here's a word from the sponsor of today's show, BetterHelp. Several years ago, while dealing with severe anxiety, I really learned the importance of talking to a therapist, but also discovered that it can be extremely difficult to find the right person to talk to. Today, BetterHelp is providing a safe and private online environment where your needs will be assessed and you'll be matched with your own licensed personal therapist.
BetterHelp isn't a crisis line, nor is it self-help. It's professional counseling done securely online, all without ever having to sit in another uncomfortable waiting room.
BetterHelp is dedicated to facilitating great therapeutic matches. Send your counselor messages at any time of the day or schedule regular weekly phone or video sessions, and they've made it free and easy to change therapists if needed.
And you don't have to limit yourself to counselors in your area. BetterHelp services are available worldwide, so you can find the expertise you need regardless of location.
We want you to start living a happier life. As a Going in Raw listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor at betterhelp.com/raw. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health.
Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/raw. Like you said, no Raw preview tonight, right now for tonight. Let's just make one up, Larson. I'll go first. What's next for WWE Champion Bobby Lashley?
That's good. That's good. With WrestleMania Backlash on the horizon, who will step up to challenge the Almighty for that WWE Championship next?
Yeah.
What's next for The Fiend and Alexa Bliss?
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
We saw the goddess make her own transformation at WWE WrestleMania. What is next for her and The Fiend?
What's next for Rhea Ripley? Fresh off winning the WWE Women's Raw Women's Championship against the Empress of Tomorrow, who will step up to challenge Rhea Ripley tonight on Raw?
That's good. AJ Styles, Amos Tag Team Title Celebration. AJ Styles celebrates becoming the newest member of WWE Grand Slam Club, and thanks to the Colossus, Amos. What's
good.
next? Who will step up to challenge them?
Right. And then a WrestleMania rematch, Sheamus versus Riddle for the United States Championship.
There you go.
There's always at least one rematch. Sometimes
you got that right.
Multiple.
Let's see how close we get when the show actually happens.
There's your Raw preview. That sounds so. I am legit curious
happen
tonight when we do Raw. When we do our Raw recap live on Twitch and then VOD on YouTube. I'd like to know how much of that.
How close we got.
How close we got. Maggie's already given us a 10 out of 10.
Nice. Want to answer some questions, yeah?
Yeah, let's answer some questions. We've got ourselves a thread on the Twitter. So if anybody in our Twitch chat right now has some questions, if you want to head over to our Twitter account, at RealGoingInRaw, that's where the thread is. It's the last thing we posted, so get them in right now. Patrick Sparks, first up, the B-Man. This is a great question. If you were privy to backstage information, production meetings, or interactions between stars and families, what would you most be into knowing about for Mania? For me, it's easy. It is after the matches, especially the emotional ones. I'm talking about Sasha and Bianca, Drew and Bobby Lashley. I want to see the interaction between the opponents after they come backstage. We saw when Bianca came backstage, Montez sort of lifting up off her feet and embracing her. She seemed very, very emotional at the time. Even
that brief little video of Sasha just not being able to contain her happiness.
I'd like to see the first time they meet up backstage and what they say to each other. That's, to me, and especially like Drew and Bob Lashley, two guys who do have similar past, been around forever. It's kind of different. So, Bianca's only been around for a little while, and this is
5 years.
5 years. And this is obviously, tons of emotion to deal with. Bob Lashley and Drew McIntyre have been around a little bit longer than that. I'm curious about what their interaction would be like. That's the kind of stuff that I'd like to see.
I'm always fascinated by the creative process. So not just decisions made, why they're made, how information is relayed from creative to the producers to the talent in terms of the story beats they want hit in the match. That stuff I find fascinating. Endlessly
absolutely.
fascinating.
Yeah.
And then how everybody collaborates to construct that story and tell it. That's what I'd love to see. That's still the one thing in professional wrestling that we don't see very often, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah,
That's
I know.
that's the mystery in it still for me.
I know.
Like I can kind of put together just based on watching how it works, but apart from that one was like on Rolling Stone where they had a thing about the Young Bucks and they were backstage at a Ring of Honor show talking to LIJ and setting up a match. It was something else, man.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to see that stuff.
Connor, I still think Orton getting emotional was the best entrance. What was the best entrance in your opinion? Love listening to you two have since Machinima. Yeah, a lot of talents were obviously very overwhelmed with emotion coming out onto the stage with the fans in attendance. You could tell Orton was just soaking it in.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it was it's not exactly an entrance, but it was prior to a match. It's when Bianca and Sasha were getting emotional before their match began.
Yeah. I'm on board with that one 100%. I thought that was something really special, and you could even see, Sasha was trying to heal it up, but in that moment, you could tell on her face that she was like, "Man, this is really special," especially for her opponent in that moment. I thought that was great. I thought that to me was like moment of WrestleMania right there. Was that moment right there. And my secondary moment, of course, would be during the national anthem, Otis swinging his hips.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yeah. David DLC, in the promo for next year's Mania, they just said April of 2022, but no date. Do you think they change their minds and make it a 2-night event? I do not. They have said pretty firmly that it's a 1-night event. Although I would be totally...
The initial announcement they did, they could change it. They could, as long as the dates are available, in theory, they could change it.
Yeah, I would love them to do that. I really like the 2-night thing. I really do.
Luis, how much creative control does Bray Wyatt really have? What percentage of the booking last night was his, and how much was Vince's? I'm sure it's collaborative. I would think that Bray probably has more input into his creative than most talent probably does. The exact percentage I can't speculate, but I would suspect that he's got a pretty heavy hand in whatever he does.
It is really difficult to speculate without having some footage or interviews in terms of like what it's all about. But if you were to speculate, I would suggest this, especially given what we saw last night. Vince probably says, "Hey, this person's got to go over." Okay, like in last night's case, hey, Randy Orton has to go over. Whatever else, just figure it out. Like, hey, RKO and you got to eat the pin, but you can figure out everything else to keep whatever story you want to keep going, because it's clear that Wyatt is doing something here. He is telling some story here with the Fiend, and it's just a matter of like him getting the beats that he wants to get in. But maybe a guy like Bray has just understood, hey, I've come up with a character who wins and losses mean less than the story that I'm telling. And so in that respect, he could be a bit more malleable with things. And it's like if Vince says, for 3 months, hey, you're going to win at Mania. And then let's say the day of, he's like, hey, I changed my mind. Orton needs to go over here because he's going to challenge Lashley first. Then it's like, okay, good to know. I'll book it that way. And I can still tell the story that I want to tell,
Well, there could be the possibility that kind of the inverse is true, where Vince in this situation, despite evidence seemingly the contrary, would be the one that's a bit malleable to a degree, where Wyatt can look at the what he has laid out in terms of whatever this macro story he wants to tell, and sees in this instance it says, okay, for the story I want to tell, it makes sense for Orton to win here, not me.
Yeah,
because this is going to lead to something.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Vince seems much more like keeping things simplistic in terms of he's got to go over. Yeah. Oh, well, this guy's got to go over here. Oh, you're the bad guy, so he's going to go over. I would suspect, just in my heart, I just sort of feel like Vince is probably the simple guy who's like, he's got to go over. He's the big guy. He's got to go over. And then Bray's like, okay, well, whatever. I'll just keep on telling the story. Yeah, whatever, pal. But I don't know. Again, that stuff would be interesting to know.
Exactly.
Interesting to know that stuff, because I don't know.
Fascinating.
All right, before we continue, here's a word from the sponsor of today's show, Raycon. Hey, Larson. Doesn't it seem like we're both sort of like constantly staring at screens, whether it's getting work done on our computers or keeping up with the latest goings-on on our phones? Unplugging from the world, it's nearly impossible.
True, Steve, but I'll tell you, I'm looking to rest these eyes of mine, especially after a long WrestleMania weekend, but still get that content that I need. I pop in my Raycon wireless earbuds and catch up on some podcasts, listen to an audiobook, or blast the freshest jams to help fuel my workout.
Yeah, man, I wear these Raycons when I'm out getting my wind sprints on, and I can tell you, these Raycons are built to perform anywhere and anytime. With water and sweat-resistant construction, they feature seamless Bluetooth pairing and offer up enough battery life for 6 hours of playtime.
And Raycon makes awesome audio accessible to everyone with wireless earbuds starting at half the price of other premium audio brands, and they come in a wide range of colorways and always have a comfortable in-ear fit for a more discreet look.
And right now, Raycon's offering 15% off all their products to Going In Raw listeners, and here's what you got to do to get it. Just go to buyraycon.com/raw. That's it. You'll get 15% off your entire Raycon order, so feel free to grab a pair and a spare.
That's 15% off at buyraycon.com/raw. buyraycon.com/raw. Greg Morris says WWE's track record for decent follow-through is spotty at best. What are the chances Bray emerges from the story on good footing?
See, I hope there is no emerging from this story. He's been telling this story for a very long time, and he doesn't really emerge from it. He just keeps on telling the story. And I'm down with that. If it continues for 5, 10 years, however long he's doing it, if he just keeps on evolving this story and he's like, hey, Vince, who do you want me to take on next? All right, well, now I want you to say, now that you're done with Orton, take on, I don't know, Drew, you know? Okay, Drew's open to seemingly a lot of stuff. Let's bring Drew in here and see what we can come up with, pitch it to Vince, and Vince will say, well, hey, Drew's a big name. He's got to go over in the end. Okay, well, let's figure that out so that I can keep on evolving and telling my story.
Yeah. You know, and there's certain aspects, I mean, pretty much in virtual every aspect, especially of the Fiend character, that I tried to make this point last night, I think, talking about the match, where Bray is really, he's working with a character that doesn't really meld well with the tropes of pro wrestling in terms of pro wrestling story is typically told, especially in WWE. And so when he's doing these things that are telling a macro story within the confines of pro wrestling storytelling, I can get why it would seem unsatisfying because fans are used to a certain level of payoff. But when there's a match like this, which you'd expect payoff at the end, and you don't get a satisfying payoff in terms of the conclusion of the match itself, not whatever story is going on outside of the ring. Yeah. You know, so when the match ends with an RKO and Fiend gets pinned right there, and you're just like, okay, well, we've seen Fiend eat like 10 finishers in a match. He doesn't get pinned. Why? And there's not easy answers there. Answers will come. I have no doubt about it. But when we're used to a certain level of payoff and we don't get it, I understand why people be frustrated by that. You know, the Fiend kind of exists as a character that doesn't really fit well with the with pro wrestlings in a lot of respects.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, he's a horror movie villain. And it'll be interesting. Another thing that'll be very interesting to see what Orton does next, and if the typical people who face the Fiend are changed afterwards to see if he does anything different. I mean, he's been in this thing with Bray for a long time. Obviously, he's really into whatever Bray's doing. I wonder if, to pay respect to that idea that you're changed after the Fiend, he would change up something about some aspect of his character presentation, what have you.
Entirely possible.
Because that has been also the interesting thing is watching characters that Bray comes into, has interactions with, like Finn Balor, like Seth Rollins, like Daniel Bryan, change what's going on with their characters after the fact. It's going to be interesting to see what Orton does. But yeah, no, I dig it, man. I mean, he's telling a story. Somebody asked here, I think it was Zondo, said, was Goldberg part of the story? My thing is this. I think that Bray, Goldberg walked in, said, hey, I can't lose to a monster. All right, well, the match has to go on. Change of pace. Bray rolled with it. He lost to Goldberg, made it part of the story. That's why the Fiend is such an interesting character, because it's malleable. You can do that. It's like, okay, well, now I have to get creative and figure out, why did I lose to Goldberg? Or at least reference it, figure it out. I'm cool with that. I think that's pretty decent.
Alex Foster, if you guys were involved in a match at Mania as celebrities, who would you trust to carry you to a good, safe match? It is actually probably The Miz.
Yeah, it's Miz and Morrison. It's exactly Miz and Morrison. It totally
Miz doesn't
is.
work stiff. He doesn't have a high impact moveset.
Yeah.
It's The Miz.
He's like
Miz is kind of like the perfect guy to walk opposite.
He's sports entertainment 101 is what Miz is.
He really is.
Yeah, absolutely.
He really is. It was pretty cool seeing everybody give, like I haven't been too into the Miz's current run.
Yeah.
Just because, and it's not his fault per se. It's just like he and Morrison are booked as buffoons more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you're trying to make the Miz into WWE Championship material, it just doesn't work for me. But hats off to both Miz and Morrison going out there and helping Bad Bunny look like $1 million in that match, man.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
They did everything to get him over.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, dude, the Miz he's the most professional guy. I mean, when he was making the case during that episode when he lost the title to Bob Lashley about when he's talking to Shane. I check all the boxes. Who else can host? Who else can have a reality show? Who else can do every single talk show there is? Who can, is press friendly? Who never takes days off? Who's never injured? I'm everything you look for. That's legit. That's real. Like, he's built that resume to that point. Does it mean I'm entertained by him in builds like that? No. I mean, it's not something that interests me. All that stuff that he was doing with Morrison, it bores me sometimes. But yeah, if you're a celebrity, you come in, Miz is absolutely your guy.
Yeah, 100%. Jason Lewis, who do you feel had the biggest drop off from last year's Mania, and who is most likely to do so this year? So let's just focus on people who were on the card last year and on the card this year.
All right, let me load up. Hold on, I'm going to load up some results here from WrestleMania.
I'm going to say this, and it's not a slight to his match yesterday, but it's Bray Wyatt, because Firefly Funhouse is one of the most impressive feats of pro wrestling storytelling I have ever seen. Firefly Funhouse match is basically an art film.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
and the worry was putting him in a standard wrestling match against Randy Orton at WrestleMania, especially after what we saw at WrestleMania 33.
Mm-hmm.
That it could be a bit of a dud. I don't think it was a dud. I think it was better than what they did at 33.
Mm-hmm.
But I would understand, as I mentioned earlier, why people would find the ending unsatisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Firefly Funhouse, brilliant. A masterful achievement in pro wrestling storytelling. And then you just kind of have a pretty standard match to open the show with some intriguing story elements at the conclusion of the match.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. He did have like an all-time great sort of wrestling short film at Mania last year. I wonder if, I mean, that the thing is, like, that wouldn't have been the case, obviously, had pandemic not been a thing. So it's just sort of happenstance. Now they're live. They weren't going to do another cinematic because they're live. He did what he could for the live match. I would say, like in terms of people who were on the card last year, still on the card this year, and I'm not talking about the SmackDown preceding WrestleMania. So you take out the entire SmackDown tag division. Guys like Angel Garza. I would say the person that's fallen the most would be I had the name right here. Where is it? Bailey, which is still a really odd, curious thing that Bailey was not in a match at WrestleMania. Don't know what the story is there. I have my suspicions that there is some sort of story there that'll be told one day. That was night 2 that I'm looking at. Let me go to night 1 and see. I mean, last year Braun Strowman beat Goldberg for the Universal Championship. He was in a pretty fun thing with Shane this year. I know a lot of people crapped all over it, but the match itself, I don't know. He's in there with Shane. I mean, Shane's been in there with The Undertaker. He's been in there with some high-profile matches. Shane, we might not think so, but Shane's a pretty high-profile guy.
Yeah,
those are kind of the same.
All right, let's talk next year. Who was someone who was in a match this year that's going to be in something lower profile next year?
Oh, man. I hope it's not Bob Lashley.
Yeah.
I hope
it's not Bob Lashley, and I hope it's not Asuka.
I hope that, yeah, that's a good point. I hope that Bob. Yeah, Asuka's probably more likely. I hope that Bob Lashley isn't. I guess I ended up being right that he's just peaking with Vince right now. But I hope that Vince now considers Bob Lashley on par with Drew McIntyre in terms of, I see this guy as a consistent main roster, main event guy. I see him as constantly threatening for the title, and I see him as a guy who could beat Brock Lesnar if they bring Brock Lesnar back, Because I think that I see him that way. I think, man, booking that Hurt Lock the way they did, that solidified that as the move to beat right now, as the submission hold to beat in pro wrestling right now. Asuka's the answer. Like, hopefully it's not her.
Yeah, I hope not. Hope not. Where was I here? NJWP in the years to come, what will go down as the more important main event, the women's triple threat for Mania 35 or the Banks versus Belair main event?
Oh, man. I mean, 2 women of color main event in WrestleMania. It's kind of a huge deal.
It is huge. It is huge.
But then 3 women wrestle. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I get sort of, my gut says Sasha, Bianca, but man, I just don't know. I don't know. It's probably going to be on par, to be honest with you. It's probably going to be on par with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that one is going to be considered more important. I mean, the first time 3 women, women main event in WrestleMania, that might be the thing, but they're both pretty big deals.
They are huge deals. Nick, which WWE wrestler or wrestlers should be on the cover of WWE 2K22?
Rawgate Mutant.
Well, that's if we were doing a Going in Raw special edition.
Lightspeed, Warp Speed.
Ice Cream Man.
Ice Cream Man. That guy really held his own, man. Ice Cream Man really held his own.
Flashback Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, Kenny Omega. Flashback Daniel Bryan for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so for reals.
New Day. Should be the New Day.
That's a good answer. I'm going to say, you know what they should do? You know what you do for 2K22? Bring it back to Raw versus SmackDown. And you have Bob Lashley on one side, Roman Reigns on the other side. That's what I want to see.
All right. That's good too. Hall of Famer Christian, what shows post-Mania takeover direction are you most excited towards seeing? SmackDown, Raw, or NXT?
And then, I should actually point this out. It should be Roman and Bobby. And then, of course, with them, it should be, or also there, it should be Bianca and Becky.
Rhea. Oh, Becky.
Okay. Yeah, Becky. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What was the other question? What shows the creative direction you most looking forward to seeing post-Mania and takeover, SmackDown, Raw, or NXT?
Well, I'm partial to NXT. I'm curious to see what they're going to do now without having to worry about direct competition. I'm curious to see if it's going to loosen things up, if it's going to, maybe some more creative freedom. I'm curious to see what NXT is going to do. I'm going to see if maybe Raw can use, some of the changes to generate some fresh creative stories, and maybe their show won't be such a slog. So yeah, I'm interested in that. SmackDown usually is pretty decent. And I mean, Roman's still going to be the A story there. Bob Lashley's a relatively new champion. So now that he has gotten through this big hurdle, we will have some new direction there. What's next for Roman? Kind of curious about that, but I don't know. They might, with WrestleMania Backlash happening, it might just be par for the course for the next month. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? That's so weird. They branded it that way. It's very strange.
I wonder if it's a Peacock branding decision.
Maybe. Kind of want to see if SmackDown can get back on track creatively, because there was that stretch where they were week in and week out. It was really good. It was really good.
Yeah.
And I think once they introduce Edge, this is not a slight at Edge by any stretch of the imagination. Once they introduce Edge into the show to feud with Rowan, it seems at first they didn't know what they really wanted to do with that, and it wasn't quite clicking until they brought Daniel Bryan in, and I don't know. It feels like when SmackDown is working well, the A story in SmackDown's working well, the whole show works well. And if the A story isn't working, the whole show suffers. It's been that way for a long time. I don't know why that's the case with SmackDown. Maybe it's not as noticeable on Raw because Raw is just kind of meh to begin with,
Sure, yeah.
When the A story is clicking. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's far more noticeable on SmackDown.
Yeah.
Tom talks rubbish. Daniel Bryan needs an NXT run before he retires. Pick 5 current NXT superstars for him to feud with during 1 year in NXT. Peter Dune.
Oh,
Kushida.
man. Kushida, yeah.
Gargano. Tyler Bate. Walter.
Oh, man. Dude, give him a year in UK. Walter. Did you already say Walter?
Yeah, I said Walter, Tyler Bate, Gargano, Pete Dunne, and Kushida.
Sorry, I'm watching this sequence with Bryan, Edge, and Roman. It's so awesome. What that was like, that was so
That was
great.
really good.
Roman's reaction to it all. So because somebody noticed here, who said this? I'm just trying to do something. Said, did anyone notice that Roman tapped while Edge? So yeah, his hand does start tapping at Roman at Edge's leg. I'm watching it again while they're both sort of fighting over him. You do actually see him tap a little bit while they're arguing. But his facials are when Edge has him.
I know.
And Daniel Bryan's locking it on. Roman's facial expression is so amazing. It's so great. So I'm watching right now. Edge is like, let go, let go, let go. He headbutts him. He headbutts him again. Daniel Bryan headbutts back. They start headbutting each other. And you see Roman do this. And I don't know if that's a sign to them for some reason or if that's supposed to be a story beat where, on the very sly, you see him sort of tap. But it's just like two little movements here.
Interesting.
Stu says he was tapping for Edge to move the pipe. That could be. It seems more of a communication thing than a story beat. Yeah.
Samuel L. Bronkowitz. What's the over-under on debuts or returns tonight on Raw? 2 max. I feel like it's 2 max.
Yeah, dude. I kind of feel like it's like the over-under is like 1.5. That kind of thing. It's like, I don't think it's gonna be. I mean, maybe we'll get EO. I hope they surprise me. I hope every segment's a surprise. Pop me every segment. Damn it.
Well, it will be a surprise because they haven't announced anything for it yet.
That's true. This is a great question. Coach John Pliskin, who would you rather party with, Bone Street Crew or the Click?
Oof.
For me, it's the Click. It's the Click, and that's pretty easy because I feel like they just sort of they might get drunk and just talk a lot about wrestling. And if nothing else, Triple H is going to be sober the whole time.
That's true.
I don't know what Bone Street Crew's up to, man. I don't know what they're up to.
They play dominoes.
They play dominoes. I'm not huge into dominoes.
Dalen Dula, Space Enforcer, takes you home, and you await the arrival of the Friendos. Within minutes, portals open up, and before you, and dozens of 3-foot rat people pour out. You try to use your influence to appeal to them, but they're offended by your rejection and start nibbling at your exposed toes. The sheer numbers quickly become overwhelming. Space Enforcer pulls out a bag of cheese to distract them, buying you just enough time to think for a moment. Is simple result of this conflict in War Games.
What a terrible idea.
Says there's another one.
Yeah, the Friendos agree to your terms and set up the 4-on-4 match for Friday. They reveal their team very quickly. 4 very jacked rat people, almost twice the size of the others. Well, the others are 3 feet, so these are 6 feet jacked rat people. What wrestlers do you recruit for your team? So it's 4-on-4. You and I are participants in this match?
Yeah, I guess so.
Damn it. So we need 2. I mean, dude, I'm going with Brock and Braun. I'm going with 2 biggest dudes that there are.
I'll do Brock and Keith Lee.
Okay, that's cool.
Gareth, will John Morrison and The Miz remain as a duo? What will it take to finally split those two apart? Any possibility Morrison makes the move to NXT?
I really want that to be one of the segments tonight. It's you get one last dirt sheet and Morrison gives a Starship Pain to Miz. That's what I want.
Great.
He needs to get away from. He needs to run away from Miz.
Mm-hmm. Inferno Death No. How long should Bob Lashley have the W Championship, and who should be the one to take it off him?
He says was personally thinking a program with Keith
yes.
Lee. I think Keith Lee would be great to take it off him at WrestleMania 38.
I'm just trying to do something. One more question. Which cash-in would personally pop you more? Edge cashing in after a Roman Brock match, or Seth cashing in on Edge after Edge beats Roman? Probably Edge cashing in.
It'd be Edge cashing in. I think, especially if there's going to be fans at Money in the Bank, that would blow the roof off the place.
Yeah. Tyler Adcox, after Roman's win at Mania, are we going to see him lose that title anytime soon? Does he continue this rampage, and how do you keep things fresh?
Oh, man. You do need some additional twists and turns for Roman. I could see the Edge cash-in thing happening. I could see that happening at like SummerSlam, possibly. I think that'd blow the roof off any place. I mean, I don't know who Roman's going to face at Money in the Bank, but I guess it's possible it could happen there as well. But yeah, or even, hey, you know what? What about Roman versus Bobby Lashley at Survivor Series, and then Edge cashes in there? You know, something like that could be kind of cool too.
That could be cool.
How do you keep things fresh? I mean, I think Roman's going to have that title for a long time, save like a cash in from Edge maybe. But I don't know. You got to add wrinkles to the story. You got to, bring Jimmy back when he's ready. You got to maybe add other people to the faction. You got to play with the characters that you have and really mix things up. You got to throw some plot twists in there.
Yeah, I think once Jimmy returns, it'd be really interesting to see how he alters the dynamic between Jay and Roman. That alone will freshen things up.
I agree. Noob and Company, what's next for Asuka, Sasha Banks, and Bayley? He says he sees Bayley feuding with the Bellas. Sasha should be on season 3 of The Mandalorian. And as for Asuka, he thinks she needs some time off TV and get her teeth fixed in the next 6 months. Is that like a major thing that she's going to need because of the tooth Shayna did?
Well, I thought I read that it was going to take 6 months for the damage that was caused to fully heal up.
Oh, but she doesn't need to take time off from.
I don't think she needs
I mean, she just had a pretty physical match.
Yeah.
Asuka. Asuka needs she needs to go heel and like kind of I was thinking about this last night. I was like, it'd be really cool if Aleister Black was the Alexa connection. I think it'd be awesome for him because he needs a high profile thing. But like, what if Asuka got into that mix as well? Could you imagine? What if Asuka was she's very colorful, like aesthetically speaking, everything is very colorful with her. Could you imagine her if they basically rebranded her aesthetically like Alexa was last night? How awesome would that look? And what if she started spraying like black mist, It's like, give her something really cool like that. Do some supernatural stuff with her. I don't know. I think there's all sorts of things you could do with her, but they need to do something,
Exactly.
Not just the same old, same old.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know what's next for Sasha and Bayley. I mean, they had that great feud to the latter half of last year. And then when Sasha won, it kind of was like, all right, well, Bayley, we don't really have a whole lot for you. Especially post-Rumble. They basically had nothing for her.
I know. It's been weird. Again, it's hard to speculate given that we don't have all the information. There doesn't seem to be anything obvious, which means that you would think it's either creative or it's something personal. We just don't know. As far as Sasha, I don't know. I mean, dude, maybe Sasha and Bailey, now that Sasha's a bad guy again, maybe Sasha and Bailey get back together and make Bianca's life a living hell, you know? And then you get the triple threat at, like, I don't know, Money in the Bank or SummerSlam. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Jamie Devlin with Mania now in the books, and it's that time of year again. Pick 2 men, 2 women, and 2 tag teams to move from NXT to Raw and SmackDown. One of each to each show, and then replace them on NXT with NXT UK talent. So okay. 2 men from NXT, 1 to Raw, 1 to SmackDown.
2 tag teams from NXT. NXT doesn't have tag teams to offer up, so I'm going to cheat.
Fair. I know.
I'm going to say British Strong Style go to
NXT Prime, right? Or you'd send them straight up from NXT UK to main.
I'm saying, yeah, I'm going to take Pete Dunne, who's already on NXT. I'm going to take Mustache Mountain. British Strong Style go to Raw.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
Okay. Send Finn to SmackDown. I think a program between him and Roman would be really great.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be really
good. Yeah,
especially right now, the character Finn's got where he really takes no shit from anybody.
There's a lot of great matchups there. You got Finn and Roman. You got Finn and Daniel Bryan. Finn and Edge. I mean, Edge said he was curious about fighting Finn.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of great stuff there for him.
2 women from NXT to main. Io to Raw.
Io. Yeah.
And then,
would you do Io to Raw or Io to SmackDown?
That's tough. I'm not sure.
I would say SmackDown because Io is very versatile. She could be a face or a heel, so she can take on Bianca, but then she could also take on Sasha. She could be like any number of things. She's just Io. Pick, and then let's see here. Another guy from. Oh yeah, we already got Finn. Okay, well that's fine. I think those are all good answers. Seeing if there's any other. I'm gonna reload this really quick. Just see if there's any more. Let's see, one more question here. No, what? Nope, not that. Let's see here. I thought I saw one here.
Yeah, I thought I saw one too.
In chat, in our Twitch chat.
Okay.
Let's see here. Haha Jackson. Vince decided the best way is to retell the storyline between Hart and Austin. The best way, what? Who do we cast in both roles? Current wrestlers. Okay, so if you did Bret Hart and Steve Austin, best way to get somebody over, what would you do?
If they could find a really good foil for Roman, have Roman the Stone Cold role and whoever this other person is in the Bret Hart role and have a double turn.
Okay, that's good.
Like the first person that's really given Roman fits.
That's good. Walter.
Yeah, Walter.
Let's see here. Walter. That's Walter. We should have sent Walter to SmackDown or Raw. I think Walter's a Raw guy. Walter. Okay, and then we'll do this last one. Zondo says, do you think the finish of the triple threat sets up an Edge versus Bryan stipulation match at WrestleMania Backlash? It better not be another rematch. Those fools got humiliated. They got stacked. They were humiliated. Neither of those guys should be in a title match anytime soon. They got stacked.
Yeah, I don't see how either of them are going to get a... No, I don't. I think Edge is gone for a while. I think he's gone for a while. I think after Mania, he's gone for a bit.
Yeah.
At least till SummerSlam or build to SummerSlam.
Oh, that's a great answer. MHJ says Becky in the Brett role, Rhea in the Austin role. I like that. That's good. That's good. Let's see here. Okay, this last one here. Stuzo says, is the lack of fans after having them for 2 shows going to be worse effect on Raw and ratings rather than usual rather than the usual bad writing. No, I think the Raw after Mania will get a bump.
Mm-hmm.
You got a lot of new stuff happening, so I hope that'll help. Hopefully they get it right creatively speaking.
Yeah.
I mean, from a fan standpoint, watching it, yeah, it's going to be a bummer going back to no fans. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
but if I understand, going back to Jericho's point about how wrestling in front of fans is completely different than not. If as we saw during stretches of SmackDown this year, if the creative's good, if they find ways to make the best of the situation with fans not being there, like contract signings where there's no one's holding a mic, that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff you can only do in the Thunderdome. You can't do that with no fans there because people in the house would be able to hear a word you're saying. Take advantage from a storytelling aspect of the situation you're in. Find ways to use that to your benefit. And I think, it can still make for a decent TV.
Yeah, SmackDown went through a long stretch where they were pretty decent. They didn't have fans, so it could totally be done. But yeah, that energy really is not really replaceable.
No, it's not.
Anyways, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. Hopefully you'll join us tonight for our live Raw recap after the show.
Yes.
Thanks for watching. Till next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.